Hello, my name is Lucas. I am the founder of Data Marketing School. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up Google Ads conversion tracking with Google Tag Manager. Let's go to Google Ads under the goals section and then under summary. I'm going to show you two different examples. So the first one is going to be purchase conversion action for e-commerce websites. I'm also going to show you a add to cart event. And the second example is going to be for lead generation businesses. I'm going to show you how to track leads from a contact form on your website. So I'm going to use the e-commerce part of the demo shop here, and for the lead generation example, I'm going to use this Elementor form that you can see here. Let's go back to Google Ads. Let's create a new conversion action, and this one is going to be the purchase conversion action. So here you can enter your website domain. So it's going to check if you have a Google tag or if you have already set up something on your website. So here I usually put example.com just so that it can activate the save and continue button. Here I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to create a conversion action manually. I'm going to select purchase. Let's call this one purchases, for example. I'm going to use different values for each conversion. Here you can enter your average order value because this is the default value. This will be used as a fallback if, for example, in your conversion action you don't send a value. So let's say my average order value is 20 euros. You count every conversion. This one is recommended for purchases and this one is recommended for leads. Here you can enable enhanced conversions. If you don't do it here, you can do it later, so no worries. And then click done. You can create other ones right now, but you can also create them later, and this is what we're gonna do. Click save and continue. And then here, Google Ads is giving you three options to set up your tracking. We are going to use Google Tag Manager. Google Ads is giving you a conversion ID and a conversion label that you can see here. So the conversion ID, it will be the same for every conversion action that you will create in Google Ads, but the conversion label here is going to be different for each conversion. Let's keep this open here and we're going to go to Google Tag Manager. The first thing you need is the conversion linker. You can trigger this one on, for example, initialization all pages. You can click save and click save again. And then the second step, we're going to create a Google tag. What you need to understand about the Google tag, it is a neutral tag that can be used to send data to either Google Analytics 4, Google Ads, or Floodlight. And this is when you enter a tag ID that you decide where the data is going to be sent. I'm going to copy my conversion ID. I'm going to add AW dash, then paste my conversion ID. Let's name this Google tag dash GAD and let's click save. Now we're going to create a conversion tracking tag. Go to Google Ads, go to Google Ads conversion tracking, and then here you need the conversion ID as well. Here under use Google Tag Manager, let's copy again the conversion ID. You can as well create a constant variable in GTM. And here, once I enter my ID, you notice here that I don't add the AW dash before. Google Tag Manager says that they found the corresponding Google tag that I created before. And then I'm going to enter my conversion label for my purchases. Okay. Once you order something, you have a purchase event in the data layer thanks to the GTM for WordPress plugin. And depending on your website, depending on what you want to track, you may not have a data layer. So you can check my video about the data layer. There are two ways of doing it, either using a plugin that will do it for you if you're using a CMS, or asking a developer to implement the data layer. Okay, so here you can see that under my purchase event, I can access the value of the purchase here. Under conversion value, I'm going to create a data layer variable. I'm going to enter the path to the value. So the path here is e-commerce and then value. So to enter the e-commerce object here, I will add a dot. So it's going to be e-commerce.value. And I write here DLV for data layer variable. Let's click save, and I'm going to do the same for transaction ID and currency code. You can also enable enhanced conversions on my data layer. You can see that before the purchase event, here I have an object that is sending all my user data. So basically, enhanced conversions is sending user data to Google Ads. GTM for WordPress is pushing this data into the data layer. So for example, here under my customer object, I've got the email, the phone number, city, state, address. When you check this checkbox, you can select a user provided data variable. You can create a new variable. And then here you need to choose between automatic and manual configuration. So I recommend using manual configuration. Let's create a new variable here. So for the email, the path is customer.billing.email. Customer.billing.email. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for the phone number. And then here you can also send, for example, the first name, the surname, street, city, region, country, postcode. So you may not have all of this information in your data layer, but if you have the information, it's a good practice to send it to Google Ads. Okay, and then you can do all other fields here and you can name it. So I like to enter the name of the data layer event it's going to be triggered on. If the data layer is different, for example, for another data layer event, you will need to create another variable and change the values inside. And here, let's click save. And here you may face this issue here because the country and the postcode needs to be filled. So for example, here I've got the country and I also have the postcode. So I can enter this information, but if for some reasons you don't have this information available, but you still need to create this variable to send the data you have to Google Ads, you can create a new variable, which is going to be undefined value variable. So here it's not really convenient because I created a new variable, but I cannot find it in the dropdown. So it's a bug from GTM. Let's select a random one. Let's click save. Let's open this again and select the undefined value. You can trigger this tag on the data layer event purchase, and let's name it DLE for data layer event and then purchase. Click save. I'm going to name it gads and then I'm going to use the name of my conversion action. Okay, so now I've got my conversion linker that is going to make the link between an ad click and a conversion. Here I've got my conversion action, which is purchases. Here I've got my Google tag, my configuration tag for Google Ads. Let's click on preview. And then if I buy a product, you can see here that there was a purchase event. Let's check the variables we created. For example, you can see that the customer billing.first_name is undefined. Customer billing.email is undefined. And we're going to look into this issue. Let's go to the data layer tab here. I did set up this tag too fast. Here you can see that the customer is under the order data object. So I will need to change my variables and enter order data before all of them. I've corrected this here under my data layer variables. This will update, of course, the user provided data here. Let's open the preview again. And then here on my purchase event, let's go to variables. And here you can see that my user data variables are correctly populated because I followed the right path. My tag was fired. And if you open the tag, you can see here that the enhanced conversion value is correctly entered. And you can see as well that the conversion ID, the currency code, the conversion label, the conversion value, and the transaction ID are populated. And here, if you switch to the gtag here, you can see that it sent a purchase. Even if the data layer event is add to cart and the conversion action is for add to cart, it will always send a purchase event here. And if you open the conversion, you can see that inside this request that was sent to Google Ads, you have the parameter EM, which is, I guess, for enhanced matching. And inside this parameter, you have the TV.1, and then you have your user data that were encoded before being sent to Google Ads. So here EM is for email, LN here is for last name. So we are done for the purchase conversion. Let's create another conversion action, which is going to be add to cart. So here category is add to cart. Let's enter my average order value as well. Let's select every and save and continue. You can click on use Google Tag Manager. And here you can see that the conversion ID is the same and the conversion label for my add to cart conversion is displayed here. So go back to Google Tag Manager under tags. Let's create a new Google Ads conversion tracking. Let's enter my conversion label. For the value, you can use the same data layer variables. I mean, if your data layer is the same, currency, and then you can check this here. And before selecting my UPD that I created for my purchase event, I'm going to check what is happening when I'm doing an add to cart. So let's go to shop and then click on add to cart. You can see that I've got my add to cart event here, and there is no user data inside this event. Since I'm logged into my demo shop, you can see here that there is an object that is sending visitor email. What you can do here, and this is why it's important to enter the name after a UPD variable, because if I select this here, since it's using this path to check the data in the data layer, it won't work for my add to cart event. Let's create a new variable. Let's name this user provided data UPD add to cart, and you can create a new variable for email, which is going to be visitor email, DLV visitor email. Click save. Okay, and then we're going to trigger this one on add to cart event. Name it gads dash and click save. Let's open the preview. Let's click on my add to cart. You can see that my conversion tracking tag was triggered here. You can check in the variables that the visitor email is populated here. And if you switch to the gtag view, you can see here that, well, even if the event here is add to cart, you still have the purchase event because it's a conversion that is sent to Google Ads. And here you can see under my EM enhanced matching that I've got the email. It's a good practice to send user data whenever it's available. So here on the add to cart, it's going to be available only for visitors that are logged in. And if it's not the case, it will send the add to cart conversion without user data. The idea is to send user data whenever it's available in your data layer. Okay, and you can see here that we've got the conversion label, conversion value as well. And if we go back here, you can see that when you create a new conversion action, it's inactive. When you send data, it will switch to no recent conversions. And what you need to know here is that it will display only the conversions that are attributed to Google Ads. Let's create a new conversion action, which is going to be for lead generation. And I'm going to send data to Google Ads when a user submits my form on my demo shop. Add conversion action manually and select a category here. So we're going to select submit lead form. Let's name it submit form. Here we can use the same value for each conversion. You can enter your average lead value, let's say 54. And here you can select one since it's recommended for leads. You can check enhance conversions. Done. Click save and continue. And then again, you can switch to use Google Tag Manager. Here you have your conversion ID and your conversion label. Go to your Google Tag Manager. Make sure you already created the conversion linker and you trigger this on all pages. You can select a new tag, which is going to be Google Ads conversion tracking as well. And here you can copy your conversion ID, paste it here, copy your conversion label, paste it here. For a lead, we won't have a conversion value. I mean, it won't be dynamic, so we can't enter something here. Currency, we can't. Transaction ID, we won't have one. What we can do is include user provided data. So here I'm going to create a new variable. Before doing this, I need to check what's going to be inside my data layer. Let's go back to my website. And if I click on Elementor form here, it's going to depend on what form you are using, because form tracking is something that can be very tricky. It depends on whether your form is inside an iframe, what is the technology that is used to create the form. There are many possibilities, so I'm going to show you an example here, but you may not be able to reproduce it with your own form. So I created a blog post about how to track Elementor forms, and here I've got a code that you can copy. So here you need to create a new custom HTML. You can paste the code and you can trigger this only on the page where you have your Elementor form, which is here Elementor-form. So let's create a new page view. On some page views where the page path contains Elementor-form, let's click save. Elementor form listener. Okay, let's open the preview and let's see what's happening. Here on the preview, you can check that on container loaded, the Elementor form listener was triggered and send the form. You have form start and form submit, and we're going to discuss about this, but you also have a generate lead, which was triggered by the code that you inserted before. You have the form fields, name, email, message. The path to access this information is form_data.form fields and between brackets name to access the name and the email. So here we're going to use only the email for this example. Here on my submit form, I'm going to create a new user provided data variable, and I'm going to name it UPD generate lead. And here for the email, I'm going to create a new variable, which is going to be form data.form underscore fields and between brackets email. Let's click save, and here you can click save again. And here you can trigger this on generate lead, which is the data layer event that is sent from my Elementor form listener. And here you can name it DLE generate lead. Let's click save. Let's click save again, and let's open the preview. Okay, the form was sent, and here you can see that you have the form start, the form submit, and the generate lead event. The form start and the form submit are sent by the Google tag, and we're gonna see in a minute how to disable this, because as it's an automatic behavior, you may not know why it's here and it may cause issues in the future. Here you can see that the tag fired, but it has a status which is failed. Thing is, we don't have access to the code inside this tag, and we cannot know why the tag failed. But when you switch to the gtag, you have the generate lead, which triggered a gtag event purchase for any Google Ads conversion. And you can see that this event triggered two requests, one which is sent to googleadservices.com/ccm and another one which is sent to googleadservices.com/page-add. And you can see inside these requests that the EM for enhanced matching is filled with my encoded email address. And if I go back to Google Ads, you can see here that my submit form switched from inactive to no recent conversions. It may be a bug that will be fixed in the future. You can always check when you find this. The gtag did send requests to Google Ads, and if it's the case, it's going to work properly. Okay, so to recap, we created a conversion linker tag that is here to link an ad click to a conversion. We also created a gtag, aka Google tag, for Google Ads, which is a configuration tag. And we also created two events for e-commerce, which are add to cart and purchases, and also an event for lead generation, which is submit form conversion action. There are other things, and I'm thinking about two things that are important. The first one is that your Google tag configuration is sending automatic events. You can go to Google Ads to disable this automatic behavior. So you can go to tools and then data manager under your Google tag here, which is called demo account in my case. You can click on manage. You have a setting which is called manage automatic event detection. I do recommend to disable everything so that you are in control of what you are doing. Okay, and click save. Here you have also a setting which is called allow user provided data capabilities. I would recommend disabling this one as well to be in control of when you're sending user data to Google Ads, and click save. You can see here that in my data layer, I don't have anymore the form submit and form start events. The second thing that is important, Google Ads will only work correctly if you set up the consent mode, which is based on user consent. You'll need to use a cookie banner, aka CMP for consent management platform. This CMP will collect visitor consent, and based on this consent, will update the consent mode signals, and this will enable Google Ads to work properly based on user consent.